Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking some time to join us today. My name is Shannon Latham, and I'm a Business Solutions Advisor here at Clark Mortensen. What we're going to do today is just go over some of the guidelines for reopening your business and what to do if an employee tests positive for COVID-19 within your workplace. Some of this is going to be repetitive for you if you participated in some of our webinars in the past, or if you've already gone to the New Hampshire Governor website, CDC, Department of Health and Human Services, for their resources in regards to best practices and guidance. We're pulling information directly from those sources and just wanted to put it together for you in a nice, easy format to use as a reference as you continue to reopen your business with best practices, or if you're just in the process of reopening for the first time or reopening after an unfortunate additional closure due to COVID. What we're going to go over, high level, not going to take up too much of your time today. Of course, if you have any questions as you go through, jot them down, send us an email or call us anytime. We're happy to help. But just high level, the safer at home guidance from the New Hampshire Governor website. So employers must require all employees who are sick or not feeling well to stay home. As we go through these, you'll see that the word must is underlined. That is because these are must-do things. These aren't choices that you have as a business owner. These are guidelines that you have to comply with in order to continue to help reduce the COVID spread and keep your employees safe. Employers must develop a process for screening all employees. You must handle employees who exhibit COVID-19 symptoms. You must strongly promote frequent hand hygiene. You must implement a workplace cleaning and disinfection practices and policies. Work on mitigation to reduce the risk to employees. You must review your employee illness policy. Employers need to remind employees of the provision of the FFCRA, which is the Family First Coronavirus Response Act. We're going to touch on this a very little bit. This expired December 31st of 2020. However, they did allow for tax credits to continue through March of 2021. So if you have any questions on that, or if you're concerned with what to do if an employee comes to you that would have previously been eligible to partake in the FFCRA leave, jot it down and reach out to us. We can definitely help you with some of the things we're helping our clients with currently in the community to give them some tools and procedures to move forward with that. The ninth guidance is you should communicate frequently with both employees and customers about the steps that are being taken to prevent the spread of COVID within your workplace. So those are the general criteria. And what we're going to do now is just kind of go through one by one and just drill down on really what they mean by each of these guidelines. So the first guidance, employers must require all employees who are sick or not feeling well to stay home. This means you need to have a policy in place to communicate with your employees so they know what to do and how to communicate with you that they're not feeling well. You know, is it any of the symptoms that could be related to COVID? Is it completely unrelated to COVID that they're aware of? And how are you going to allow them to communicate that with you? We recommend, a phone call so you can have a conversation with the employee. If you're going to allow them to text or leave a voicemail, just have that documented so you can make sure that you're keeping track and record of everybody when they're saying that they need to be out, and then you can follow the appropriate guidance thereafter. So they need to let you know if they're going to be out of work, not feeling well to stay home. Some of the symptoms are COVID, fever, respiratory symptoms, sore throat, runny nose, cough, shortness of breath, flu-like symptoms such as muscle aches, chills, or fatigue, feeling super tired, and then a change in your sense of taste and smell. Now, these are not all of the symptoms of COVID, as we've all heard over the past year or so now. There's, asymptomatic people that, could be walking around right now with COVID and not even know it. And there are some people that have exacerbated symptoms of this, of any of these, several that are listed there, or they could be, something that's completely different. So let them know what their symptoms are, document it, and then you can follow the necessary steps to make sure that you're following the procedures for guidance as with the state and the CDC. Employers must develop a process for screening your employees. So with this one, you want to make sure that you're identifying your key person that's going to be they're the go-to person that is going to be screening every employee every day before work. It's really important that this person has proper training and understands that this needs to be done with care and empathy, and that you're treating each employee exactly the same. You can't decide that you're not going to screen someone because they came in and worked the late shift last night and they're working the morning shift this morning. You need to make sure that every employee every day is asked the same questions. Their temperature is scanned with a non-touch thermometer right over their forehead, to make sure that you're documenting everything every day that employee comes into the office and has the potential to be in contact with other people. You want to communicate this plan with your employees so they know what to expect. You don't want them to be surprised or, standoffish if they come in one day and there's someone with a thermometer and rubber gloves at the back entrance ready to take their temperature and ask them all of these, pretty personal questions. So make sure that everybody understands the plan. Make sure that they know that everything that is documented is confidential. Always keep the information recorded, but completely separate from the personnel files, so it's not commingled with any information that's not non-public private health information. You want to ask the screener to clearly ask the health questions that we're going to go over in just a quick minute, and document the temperature. And currently, the state of New Hampshire says per the CDC guidelines that it should not exceed 100 degrees for that employee to enter the workplace. The questions that are recommended that you ask: have you been in close contact with a confirmed case of COVID? Have you had a fever or felt feverish in the last 72 hours? Are you experiencing any symptoms, including a runny nose, sore throat, or cough that are respiratory symptoms? Are you experiencing any new muscle aches or chills? And have you experienced any change in your sense of taste or smell? You can have one yes or no box at the bottom. You can have these on a piece of paper, with each box having them to choose yes or no, and then have them sign on the bottom. And again, file that away safely so you're in compliance with all the state and federal guidelines, including ADA, and making sure that all that information is kept completely separate from any of their regular personnel file information. Employers must handle employees who exhibit COVID-19 symptoms. So again, this goes back to everything, having a policy in play and communicating this with your employees. Instruct the employee to leave the building or the premise immediately and to seek medical advice. Again, making sure that you're being compliant with EEOC, ADA, all of the compliance regulations and alphabet soup that are out there. You need to make sure that you're not discriminating against anyone. You're not making a big fuss if you have to ask someone to leave. Do it quietly, calmly, and with the utmost respect and confidentiality of that person, because they probably have some pretty big feelings going on as well, and you want to respect those feelings and their privacy within the workplace. Must strongly promote frequent hand hygiene. You must, monitor their hand washing or use of hand sanitizer, and encourage frequent hand washing. This is something that, as silly as it may sound, it's, the number one thing that we need to be doing, making sure that we're constantly keeping our hands clean before and after we're touching anything, and make sure that you have hand sanitizer stations available for all of your employees and guests as they come in and out of your business place. Have a small hand sanitizer at everybody's desk. Allow them to get up frequently and go wash their hands, so that they are reminded to take a break. And the other thing you can do, if you have, if you're a contractor, a construction company, and you have employees working out of vans or trucks, fit them with a little toolbox, if you will, that has hand sanitizer, gloves, masks, all of the CDC and health guidelines, PPE that you need to comply with this, so that if they're on a job site, they're prepared, they're kept safe, they're in compliance. And the other thing, we're not going to get into it today, but OSHA has their own set of requirements and regulations that we need to make sure that we're making sure everybody is in compliance with. So you want to make sure that they have, at minimum, hand sanitizer, gloves, masks, and all of those other PPE things that they need available to them, even if you're not in an office setting, that you can protect your employees and the folks that they're working with. If they're going into someone else's home, you need to think of that as well. Implement workplace cleaning and disinfection practices. So make sure that your policies and practices follow the CDC guidance for regular sanitation of high and moderately touched surfaces at least every 2 hours. You can delegate a couple point people within your office building if you're in an office setting or a building setting, pardon me. And just make sure that they're taking turns with the appropriate PPE if you have gloves to supply them, if that's what they're more comfortable with, that they're using masks if it's a highly chemical-based cleaner, and just make sure that they're going to light fixtures, countertops, faucets, the restroom, making sure those highly touched surfaces are cleaned, doorknobs, all of those types of things that everybody touches, regardless of whether or not it's a choice. You have to do those things. So making sure that commonly touched surfaces are cleaned at least every 2 hours, and delegate the people to do that so it's getting done. Have a checklist and make sure that it's monitored, and then you have that in place in case something happens. You can go back to your log and say, you know what, Shannon cleaned this 2 hours ago, now it's my turn, then it's her turn, and it's all been documented, date and time, and by who the cleaning was done. So that would be developing the policy for worker protection and training to anybody who's going to be doing the cleaning as well. Mitigation to reduce the risk to other employees, or to all employees, excuse me. Yeah, we want to keep people safe. I mean, the best thing to do to keep everybody safe is really to separate people as much as possible, as unfortunate and frustrating as that has been, and unfortunately will continue to be for a little bit of time. The best thing to do is offer to work from home when and where possible. I know a lot of us at the office have been working remotely. I myself am going back and forth as much as possible, but we have the capability within our industry to work remotely in some cases, and it's done a good job by keeping us safe and keeping our customers and clients and community safe. So when and where possible, work from home. And when you are in an industry where that isn't possible, if you're caring for others, or if you're in different industries where you're working with others, support the use of face coverings when social distancing is not possible. Provide training on the disinfecting face coverings. If you have the ability to teleconference or do a webinar or a Zoom meeting instead of a face-to-face seminar, it's not as fun to sit here and talk to myself as it is when I'm in front of all of you and have some interaction and other people to look at. But we're getting it done, and we're doing the best that we can. Remind people, cover your coughs, sneeze into your elbow, wash your hands, and limit those common areas with communal, sharings of water coolers, coffee pots, potlucks in the kitchen, those types of things. The fewer hands you can have commingled into everything, for now, really, the better. Employers must review your employee illness policy. So this is something that we've been working really hard with our clients pretty much since COVID hit almost a year ago now. So we want to make sure that you have everything in good order, and you have to have everything in good order to comply with these regulations with COVID, to make sure that you're doing everything you can to flatten the curve, as has been the top phrase for the past year or so, but also keep your employees safe, keep your customers safe, guests, visitors, residents, depending on your industry. So making sure that your policies are consistent with existing state and federal laws and regulations. Update or amend any policies to include the symptoms of COVID, and create a COVID-specific policy. You can do a COVID-specific action plan, which is one of the things that OSHA wants you to have available for any of your employees, depending on your industry. You can have a separate pandemic plan. If you have these in place and you're looking just for some tips or guidance on how to work the COVID component into that, let us know. We're happy to help you. We're all working through the same thing. So the easier we can make it for you, the better it is for everybody, because then it gets it done and make sure that you're on the right track. So we're glad to help. Maintain flexible policies that allow your employees to stay home if they're not feeling well, or if they need to care for a sick family member. Now, again, the FFCRA, which was that Family First Coronavirus Response Act, that expired 12/31 of 20. However, there are still some best practices you can work to put into play to make sure that you can empathize with that employee that maybe isn't feeling well, could be showing some symptoms, or has a sick person at home that they need to care for, and that you give them the flexibility and can really work through it and not penalize them for having to comply with the guidance, because you don't want them to come to work if they're sick. So, try to make the best out of a really unfortunate situation. So maintain flexibility there. And again, if you're looking for some different guidance, let us know. And all your staff should know where the policy is, where it's posted. Make sure that they sign it and acknowledge it, so that you can document and have verification of the documentation that they've gone through that policy and you have it in their file. Oops, excuse me, I got too happy with my mouse there. This one here, so employers need to remind employees of the provision of the FFCRA Act. So not going to go into this because it's expired. As I said, there's a ton of information that we have available on our Clark Mortensen website regarding this. I'm happy to send you the information that we've been sending out all along. In a nutshell, it's a fantastic act that was put into place to make sure that employees who fell within a certain bucket of criteria and had to stay home for certain reasons related to COVID were able to stay home related to COVID and not worrying about jeopardizing their employment. So there's a lot going on with this one. Not going to dive into it because it's no longer valid, so to speak. But if you want more information, let me know. I'm glad to go over it with you. The ninth guidance here is with everything, just communicate. Communicate frequently and often as possible with employees and customers about the steps you're doing and taking within your workplace to prevent the spread of COVID. Communicate expectations to employees on the recommendations that everybody can take to prevent the spread. Post lots of signage. I mean, there's some pretty fun signs out there now regarding hand washing and masks, some funny little memes if you have some lightheartedness within the workplace and you want to make people giggle a little bit, as long as they're appropriate and they're in compliance with all the EEOC and non-discrimination acts. And just, make sure customers know on a broad level what we're doing or what you're doing to prevent the spread internally and on a community basis. Put this stuff on your social media platforms, share with everybody what you're doing as a business owner to contribute to the reduction of the cases. It's good for you, it's good for your employees, and also give you a little boost and hopefully draw some business into you because people will know that you're doing the right thing, and when they come and see you that they're going to be safe. Okay, so that's the first half of the video we're going to go through today. Pardon me. The second part we're going to go through here, what do I do now? So you've done everything that you're supposed to do, hand washing, sanitizing, masks, temperatures, the questions. If somebody is sick, they've stayed home. Now what happens? You did everything possible that you're supposed to do correctly, and someone within your workplace tests positive. This will happen. It may have already happened to you. You can do everything right. And this, we never know when we're going to get it or if we're going to get it. So if it happens, we just do the right thing and find the appropriate way and guidance to deal with it to make sure that you're following compliance. And, hopefully sharing with your employee that they recover quickly and don't have a really bad case of it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is respond directly to the employee. They need to isolate the employee, notify other employees, customers, vendors, guests, and then closing down the workplace for a cleaning. These are some of the guidance that have been put into play by the state and the CDC. These are constantly evolving and changing. You may have a more robust plan in place. That's fantastic. Stick to it, whatever works for you. This is kind of the basic guidance to adhere to. So we're going to drill down on each of these a little bit here. So respond to the employee. After the employee notifies you that they've tested positive, take a deep breath, stay calm, and remember, be empathetic. They are probably terrified, scared, and now they have to go through in their own life right now a completely different version of the isolation that we've all been doing for the past 12 months. So lots of things to think about. Reassure to them that it's going to be confidential. Coordinate with them any paid time off that they may have available to them, or time off that you're going to give them until they've recovered and are able to come back per the guidance. When you're talking to other employees within the workplace who may have been in contact with them for the past 2 weeks, let the infected employee know that you're going to be confidential with it. You can't share any information. However, it's really important that they give you the information on who they may have been in contact with, because now you have the obligation due to contact tracing to go to those possibly infected employees that could have been in close communication and let them know that there's a possibility there that they may have had the close contact and need to follow their own isolation guidance right now. So be as calm as possible. It's probably absolute terrifying news to hear someone come to you and say that that's what's taken place. Treat it with respect, calmness, and just follow the guidelines. There's a reason you have these steps in place, because when something like this happens and you're not organized and you don't have a plan ready to go, it's really easy to kind of have the wheels fall off and kind of lose control of the situation. The second guidance here, isolating the employee. So the next couple slides are a little bit meaty, so I apologize, but I really wanted to make sure that you have in front of you while we're going through this, really what those criteria are. So if you revisit this later, or if you want me to email it over to you, take a snapshot of it, whatever's best for you. They're meaty, just a little warning. According to CDC, employees of COVID-19 should go into isolation immediately, and it should continue until other conditions are met. Now, the other conditions vary given the particular case and given how the healthcare provider wants to respond to the positive test. So for employees who are not being tested for COVID, isolation should continue until the following three conditions are met. So they want to go 72 hours without assistance of any Tylenol, Motrin, or what have you for fever-reducing medicines. Other symptoms have improved, and it's been at least 7 days since the initial onset of symptoms. So those are the three general criteria for individuals testing positive who are not actually being tested. Employees who are being tested for COVID, isolation wants to continue until the following conditions are met. No fever without assistance of those fever reducers. Other symptoms have improved. And the difference here is rather than if you're not being tested waiting 7 days after the first onset of symptoms has passed, this one, if you're being tested, requires that you have 2 negative tests come back within a 24-hour period. Now, you want to check with your healthcare, you want to check with any changes made by local governments, depending on the situation. This is also not a one size fits all. I mean, if you have underlying conditions, if you have comorbidity that you're dealing with, depending on your age and other factors of your health, this very well could not apply to you. So you want to just follow your healthcare provider's instruction in all cases. You want to make sure that you notify employees, customers, vendors, and guests. And before I even go into this, this is one of those situations where it's really important that you have a solid communication plan for your business. So who are the people that are allowed to speak to the public, the media, the press, social media platforms on your behalf in case something happens? And this isn't just in the event of, a sudden onset of COVID within your workplace, but this is also the good things that happen within your workplace. So if something good happens during the year, who's the key person that communicates to the press? Something bad happens at any given time, who are the key people that are going to communicate that to the press or that have the ability to put any sort of information on a social media platform? So that was just my little sidebar of a communication policy. You want to recommend that the employee or the guest, vendor, visitor self-quarantine for the next 14 days or monitor their symptoms, if possible, of COVID-19. Directly notify any coworker or customer who may have been close contact with that COVID positive employee, and just remind them of everything you've been doing since day one to make sure that you're doing everything you need to do to be in compliance with the state and CDC guidelines. Help make determinations on who should be self-isolating. And if possible, if the person is able to feel well, or if these other employees have the capacity to work from home, allow them to work from home during this time, because it's imperative that you're being flexible and that you're accommodating the needs that they have. If you're planning on having employees work from home for the next 14 days or closing the office, that information needs to be disclosed within the communication. So all of your employees need to know what the plan is moving forward. If some people are going to work remotely because they have the ability to, or if other folks who are on the road or have a different capacity within their job position, they have to be on site, that they're going to be working on site, and making sure that your vendor knows not to show up with a couple bottles of water for the workplace for the next couple weeks, because nobody's going to be there to accept it for you. This slide here, I just pulled it from the Department of Health and Human Services website. All of these guidelines recently changed, as we all know. And again, this is a constantly evolving landscape from guidelines and timeframes and onset and symptoms. So this is constantly changing. However, as of January 22nd, these are the guidelines that I found online. So I wanted to put this up there and share it with you. It's a really nice graphic. It is available right on the governor's website for the state of New Hampshire as well. But I thought I'd give a nice little time frame. The fourth guidance here, in regards to what to do if you've done everything right and you still have an employee who tests positive for COVID, it's recommended that you close down the workplace for cleaning. Again, this may not be a possibility for you if you're in an assisted living facility and this is your resident's home. You can't, just shut it all down. You want to make sure that according to the CDC that the CDC COVID-19 can remain on hard surfaces for up to 12 hours. You may want to consider closing the office for a few days. And in this case, if it's assisted living, you can obviously, unfortunately, close it from outside visitors, but close it for a few days so it can be thoroughly cleaned and disinfected. Really get in there. There's some great companies locally that do a fantastic job coming in and kind of doing that high hazard multi-surface cleaning. Reach out to them, have that taken care of. Um, Evacuate for 72 hours if necessary, and advise the employees who are able to work remotely to work remotely. And if the employee has not been in the office for 7 days or more, some of these additional cleanings may not be required to supplement the regular standard cleaning that you put into play. But again, you know, is it a bad thing to have someone come in and do a really thorough job if someone tests positive? It might be a little bit on your bottom line, but in the long run, it might very well be the best thing to do to keep you, your employees, and your guests safe. So that is pretty much kind of the high level overview as far as the state of New Hampshire guidance for how to safely reopen your business if it's been shut down due to COVID-19, as well as what to do in the event that someone within your organization tests positive for COVID. I put right here a slide that has some other resources for you that you can take a look at. The guidance is right available on newhampshire.gov. Reopening guidance. We also have a plethora of information right on our Clark Mortensen website. We've dedicated a COVID-19 page to all these resources to help guide you and assist you since day one. So by all means, check out those resources as well. And in the meantime, I will leave it at that. I thank you again for all of your time. Stay safe, stay well, and hopefully next time I'll get to see you in real life. Take care. Thank you.